Captain Vex walked through the cargo hold of his ship with a big smile on his face. His crew had just finished another successful raid on a small planet. The people there lived in simple villages and had no advanced weapons to fight back. Perfect targets for the slave trade. Count them again, Grix, Vex told his second-in-command. I want to make sure we got everyone. Grix nodded and walked between the metal cages that lined the cargo hold. Inside each cage sat scared beings from the planet below. Men, women, and children from different villages, all captured during the night raids. They would fetch good prices at the slave markets. 37 total, Captain, Grix reported. 20 adults and 17 younglings. Vex rubbed his hands together. Younglings always sold for more credits because they were easier to train. The buyers liked them small and scared. It made Vex sick sometimes, but credits were credits. Good work, everyone, Vex announced to his crew. We'll reach Kepler Station in 3 days. Then we all get paid. The crew cheered. They had been planning this raid for weeks. The planet seemed perfect, far from any major trade routes, no military presence, and the people looked weak and helpless. Just another easy job. Vex was about to leave the cargo hold when he heard something strange. Singing. Someone was singing a soft, gentle song. He followed the sound to cage number 7, where a small girl sat cross-legged on the floor. She looked different from the others. Her hair was black and straight, her skin a light brown color. She wore simple clothes, a blue shirt and brown pants. But something about her seemed odd. The other prisoners looked afraid and confused, but this little girl seemed calm. Too calm. Hey Grix, Vex called out. Come look at this one. Grix walked over and stared into the cage. The little girl looked up at them with dark, intelligent eyes. She tilted her head to one side like she was studying them. She's different, Grix said slowly. Look at her bone structure. Her facial features. She doesn't match the others. What do you mean? Vex asked, but he was starting to feel worried. I mean, she's not the same species as the others. Look. Grix pointed to the girl's hands. 5 fingers, not 6 like the others. And her ears are different. More rounded. Vex felt his stomach drop. Run a genetic scan. Now. Grix pulled out his scanner and pointed it at the girl. She watched the device with curiosity, not fear. The scanner beeped and showed its results on a small screen. Grix looked at the numbers, then looked again. His face went pale. Captain, Grix whispered. We have a big problem. What does it say? It says she's human. Terran. From Earth's colonies. Vex's 3 eyes went wide. That's impossible. There are no human settlements in this sector. The scanner doesn't lie, sir. She's human. About 8 years old. Her name tag says Yun. The little girl named Yun continued to watch them. She seemed to understand they were talking about her, but she showed no fear. Instead, she started humming again, the same gentle tune from before. Vex grabbed the scanner from Grix and looked at the results himself. The genetic markers were clear. Human. Definitely human. His hands started shaking. You absolute moron. Vex screamed at Grix. You kidnapped a human child. Now we're all screwed. The shouting made the other prisoners look up in alarm. But Yun just kept humming, her small hands folded in her lap. It wasn't my fault. Grix protested. She was with the others. How was I supposed to know? Because you're supposed to check these things before we grab them. Vex was pacing now, his clawed feet clicking on the metal floor. Do you have any idea what you've done? What we've all done? Other crew members started gathering around. They heard the shouting and wanted to know what was wrong. When they saw their captain's face, they knew it was serious. What's the problem, boss? Asked Zek, the ship's pilot. The problem is that our friend Grix here grabbed a human child during the raid, Vex said through clenched teeth. The crew went silent. Even the prisoners stopped making noise. Everyone in the galaxy knew about humans. They were new to space travel, but they were dangerous. Very dangerous. And they protected their young like nothing else in the universe. Maybe it's a mistake, suggested Nix, the weapons officer. The scanner could be wrong. I ran it twice, Grix said quietly. She's human. Yun chose that moment to speak. Her voice was small but clear. Are you going to hurt the others? She asked in perfect galactic standard. The crew stared at her. Most children her age could barely speak their own language, but she was talking to them in the common tongue used for trade between species. She speaks standard, whispered Zek. Human children learn fast, Vex said, his voice full of dread. They're not like other species. Their brains develop differently. Yun stood up in her cage and walked to the bars. She was small enough that the top of her head barely reached Vex's chest, but somehow she didn't look small at all. My parents will come for me, she said calmly. They always do. Those words hit the crew like a cold wave. Parents. Human parents. Which meant other humans knew she was missing. Which meant the entire human military machine would soon be looking for her. Boss, Nick said slowly, we need to take her back. Right now. We can't go back, Vex replied. The planet's probably crawling with search teams already. Then we dump her somewhere. Anywhere. Just get her off the ship. Vex looked at the little girl again. She was watching their conversation with those intelligent eyes, understanding every word. She didn't look scared or angry. She looked patient. Like she was waiting for something. That scared him most of all. Admiral Jean was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency alarm started screaming through his ship. The sound meant only one thing: code black. A human child was in danger. Jean dropped his cup and ran to the command center. Officers were already at their stations, faces tight with worry. His communications officer, Lieutenant Park, looked up as he entered. Sir, we have a code black situation. A human child has been taken from Colony World 7. Details? Jean ordered, his voice hard as steel. 8-year-old girl named Yun. Taken during a slave raid 3 hours ago. Her parents, Jay and Hai, reported her missing when they couldn't find her after the attack. Jean felt his blood turn cold. In all his years as an admiral, he had never dealt with a kidnapped human child. The protocols for Code Black were clear, but he had hoped never to use them. Send the message to all human fleets. Full mobilization. Every ship, every station, every outpost. Find that child. Yes, sir, Park said, fingers flying over his controls. Within minutes, the message was racing through quantum space to every human colony and ship. The response was immediate and terrifying to anyone watching from the outside. On Mars base, Admiral Kai was inspecting new recruits when his aide ran up to him with a message pad. Kai read it once, then read it again. His face went dark. Cancel all training. Ready every ship for immediate launch. We have a child to find. Sir, how many ships should we prepare? The aide asked. All of them, Kai replied. Every single one. At Luna Station, Commander Ho was in a meeting with trade representatives from 3 different alien species. Her communicator buzzed with an urgent message. She read it and stood up immediately. This meeting is over, she announced. We have an emergency. The alien delegates looked confused. Commander, we haven't finished discussing the trade agreements. A human child has been taken, Ho said simply. Nothing else matters now. The aliens looked at each other with growing alarm. They had heard stories about how humans reacted to threats against their children, but they had never seen it firsthand. Back on Colony World 7, Jay and Hai sat in their small kitchen, holding hands and trying not to cry. Their daughter Yun was gone. She had been sleeping in her bed when the raiders came in the night. Now there was just an empty room with scattered toys. She's smart, Hai whispered. Our Yun is very smart. She'll find a way to stay safe until help comes. The military will find her, Jay said, but his voice shook. They have to. Outside their house, human soldiers were setting up equipment that could track ships across space. Other teams were interviewing witnesses and collecting evidence. The search had already begun. On Earth, President Na sat in an emergency meeting with the Terran Council. Representatives from 12 human worlds were connected by video link, their faces serious and angry. The kidnappers made a mistake, President Na said. They don't understand what they've done. But they will learn. What are our orders? Asked Governor Lee from New Seoul Colony. Find the child. Use every resource we have. I don't care about the cost. And the kidnappers? Asked Admiral Choi from the 5th Fleet. President Na's voice was ice cold. They will face justice. Human justice. Across the galaxy, other species were beginning to notice the human response. Trade ships reported entire human fleets moving at once. Space stations watched as human military vessels poured out of every port. On Zephyr Prime, Ambassador Kix was in his office when his assistant rushed in with news reports from across known space. Sir, the humans are mobilizing everything. Every ship, every fleet. It's like they're preparing for war. Kix read the reports with growing concern. What could cause such a response? One of their children was taken, sir. Kidnapped by slave traders. Kix felt his heart skip a beat. He had lived near human space for 5 years and had learned to respect their military power. But this was something different. This was personal. Contact the Galactic News Network, Kix ordered. Tell them this is bigger than a simple rescue mission. The humans are showing their true nature. On the pirate ship, Captain Vex was pacing back and forth in his cabin. His communications officer, Tal, sat at his desk monitoring space traffic. "Captain, you need to see this," Tal said, his voice full of fear. "What now?" "I'm picking up massive fleet movements in human space. Hundreds of ships. Maybe thousands." Vex stopped pacing. "Thousands?" "Yes, sir. And they're all heading in our general direction. Every news network in the galaxy is reporting it." Vex turned on his wall screen and watched the news reports. Human fleets were moving like nothing anyone had ever seen. Ships that had been in port for repairs were launching anyway. Cargo vessels were being converted to search ships. Even civilian ships were joining the hunt. The news reporter was an alien with 4 eyes, and all 4 were wide with shock. "We have never seen a military response like this," she said. "The humans appear to be treating the kidnapping of one child as an act of war." Vex turned off the screen and sat down heavily in his chair. His crew had been worried before, but now they were terrified. They kept coming to his cabin to ask what they should do. "We could give her back," suggested Grix for the 10th time. "To who?" Vex snapped. "There are human ships everywhere now. They'll shoot us before we can explain." "Then what do we do?" Vex looked at the star charts on his screen. Every route to safety seemed blocked by human ships. It was like watching a net close around them. In the cargo hold, little Yun was teaching the other prisoners a human children's song. She seemed completely calm, as if she knew exactly what was happening. The other prisoners had started looking to her for comfort, even though she was the youngest one there. "Help coming soon," she told them in simple standard. "My people never leave children behind." Her quiet confidence was starting to scare even the guards. Lieutenant Rhee sat in front of 12 computer screens on the command ship Terra's shield. Each screen showed different information about the search for little Yun. Star maps, ship movements, communication signals, and energy trails all painted a picture of where the kidnappers might be hiding. "Ensign Min, what do you have on the quantum tracking?" Rhee asked. Min looked up from her station. "We found the trail, sir. The pirates' ship left a quantum signature when they jumped to hyperspace. We can follow it." "How long ago?" 18 hours. "They're moving toward the Vega sector, but they're trying to hide their trail by jumping between systems." Rhee smiled coldly. "They don't understand human technology. Every jump leaves traces. We can track them anywhere." On another screen, Commander Park was coordinating with civilian ships. Hundreds of human traders and explorers had volunteered to help search. They formed a network of eyes and ears across 3 star systems. "Civilian ship Morning Star reports a pirate vessel spotted near Kepler Station," Park announced. "Ship matches our target's description. Send the coordinates to Admiral Jin's fleet," Rhee ordered. "And thank the Morning Star crew." The hunt was moving faster than anyone had expected. Human ships worked together like a single organism, sharing information instantly and moving with perfect coordination. Other species had never seen anything like it. On the pirate ship, Captain Vex was getting desperate. His communication board was full of rejection messages. Every ally, every contact, every safe port was refusing to help him. "Red Haven Station won't let us dock," reported his communications officer Tal. "They say we're too dangerous to approach." "What about the Syndicate? They owe me favors." "The Syndicate cut all ties with us, Captain. They sent a message saying we're on our own." Vex slammed his fist on his chair. "Cowards. All of them." "Captain," called his pilot Zek from the bridge, "we're getting reports that 3 of our allied pirate crews have surrendered to human forces." "What? Why would they do that?" "The humans aren't just hunting us, sir. They're taking apart the entire pirate network. Every ship that ever worked with us is being tracked down. Our friends are surrendering before the humans find them." Vex felt his world falling apart. In just 2 days, a criminal network that had taken decades to build was crumbling like old paper. Down in the cargo hold, Yun was becoming a leader among the prisoners. She had learned the names of all 37 captives and was helping them stay calm. "Food time," she announced in standard as the guards brought their daily meal. The prisoners had started following her simple system of sharing food equally. An older prisoner named Gorak looked at her with wonder. "How do you stay so brave, little one?" Yun smiled. "My mama always says that scared people make bad choices. Smart people think first." She had been thinking constantly. During the past 2 days she had memorized everything about the ship. She knew which guards were mean and which ones were just doing their job. She knew the ship made a strange noise every 4 hours when the engines recharged. She knew the captain was scared because his voice got higher when he talked to his crew. "The bad aliens are worried," she told the other prisoners. "They keep running to different places but they can't find anywhere safe." One of the guards, a young alien named Dek, was standing nearby. He had been listening to Yun teach the others simple human words. Unlike the other guards, Dek seemed uncomfortable with his job. "Little human," Dek said quietly, "is it true that your people never give up searching?" Yun looked at him with serious eyes. "Never. Especially not for children. My daddy told me that humans will search the whole galaxy if they have to." Dek looked nervous. "What happens to us when they find this ship?" "That depends," Yun said. "Are you mean to children or are you just scared?" Dek thought about this. He had never wanted to be a pirate, but he needed work to feed his family. "I don't want to hurt anyone. I just need credits." "Then maybe you should help instead of hurt," Yun suggested. "Good people who help children are treated better than bad people who hurt them." Meanwhile, on the bridge, Captain Vex was watching his options disappear one by one. The human search grid was closing in like a net, and every escape route was being blocked. "Sir," Tal called out, "I'm intercepting human communications. They're talking about something called the Child Protection Protocols." "What does that mean?" "I don't know, sir. But they sound very serious about it." On the Terrace shield, Admiral Jean was speaking with the other fleet commanders. Their plan was working perfectly. "Admiral Kai, what's your position?" Jean asked. "My fleet is covering the northern approaches to Kepler Station. If they try to sell the child there, we'll be waiting." "Good. Commander Ho, are your ships ready?" "All ships in position, sir. The pirates have nowhere left to run." "Admiral Nam, status on the criminal network?" "We've arrested or scattered every pirate crew that ever worked with the target ship. Their support system is completely destroyed." Jean looked at the main display screen showing the search area. The red dots representing possible pirate locations were getting fewer and fewer. "They can't hide much longer," he said. "When we find them, I want a clean rescue. The child's safety is our only priority." Back in the cargo hold, Yun was teaching the prisoners a simple human song about going home. Even some of the guards had stopped to listen. Her clear, young voice filled the dark space with hope. "Soon we go home," she told her fellow prisoners. "All of us. The good people will help and the bad people will learn to be better." She looked up at the ceiling, knowing that somewhere above the stars, her people were coming for her. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace like thunder made visible. 50 warships appeared around the pirate vessel in perfect formation, their weapons already locked onto their target. At the center of the fleet was the massive dreadnought Terra's Fury, its hull black as space itself. Captain Vex stared at the display screen in horror. His small pirate ship was surrounded by the most powerful military force he had ever seen. Each human warship was 3 times larger than his vessel, and their weapons could turn his ship into space dust in seconds. "Captain," his pilot Zek called out with a shaking voice, "they're sending us a message." "Put it on screen." Admiral Jin's face appeared on the main display. His expression was calm, but his eyes were cold as winter stars. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "This is Admiral Jean of the Terran Defense Forces. You have taken one of our children. Return her immediately, unharmed, and you will live to face trial. Refuse and we will take her back by force." Vex tried to speak, but no words came out. Around the bridge, his crew members were dropping their weapons and raising their hands in surrender. We didn't know she was human," Vex finally managed to say. "That does not matter," Jean replied. "You have 30 seconds to prepare for boarding. Any hostile action will result in the destruction of your vessel." The communication ended. Vex looked around at his crew. Their faces showed the same terror he felt. They had heard stories about human boarding parties, but they had hoped never to experience one firsthand. "What do we do?" asked Grix. "We surrender," Vex said quietly. "All weapons down. Open all doors. Do nothing that could be seen as threatening." In the cargo hold, Yun heard the sound of many ships arriving. She smiled and stood up in her cage. "They're here," she announced to the other prisoners. "My family found me." The other captives looked confused. They could hear new sounds from outside the ship, but they didn't understand what was happening. "Who is here?" asked Gorak, the older prisoner who had become her friend. "The humans," Yun said simply. "They came to take me home." One of the guards, Dek, was standing nearby with his weapon lowered. "Little human, what will happen to us?" "That depends on what you do now," Yun said. "If you help them rescue everyone, they might be nice to you. If you try to fight, they won't." Dek made his decision. He unlocked Yun's cage door and then started unlocking the other cages too. "What are you doing?" shouted another guard. "The right thing," Dek replied. "I'm helping the children go home." On the Terra's Fury, Commander So was leading the boarding team. 20 human soldiers in full battle armor moved through the airlocks and into the pirate ship. Their weapons were ready, but they found no resistance. The pirates had thrown down their guns and were kneeling in the corridors with their hands visible. Some were crying. Others were praying to whatever gods their species believed in. "Sector clear," reported Sergeant Lee through the communication system. "Moving to prisoner holding area," added Corporal Kim. Commander So followed the ship's blueprints that her team had downloaded in seconds. Human technology could map any vessel instantly, showing every room and corridor. She found the cargo hold filled with freed prisoners. At the center of the group stood a small human girl with dark hair and intelligent eyes. She was comforting an alien child who was crying from fear. "Commander So, Terran Defense Forces," So announced as she removed her helmet. "Are you Yun?" "Yes, ma'am," Yun replied politely. "Are you here to take everyone home?" So knelt down to Yun's eye level. "We're here to take you home. Are you hurt?" "No, ma'am. But some of the others are hungry and scared. And prisoner 23 has a hurt leg from when they caught him." So looked around at the 37 liberated captives. "We'll take care of everyone. Can you help us by translating for those who don't speak standard?" "Yes, ma'am," Yun said. "I learned some of their words." As the human soldiers began helping the prisoners, So noticed something remarkable. The captives weren't afraid of the armed humans. Instead, they were looking to little Yun for guidance and comfort. "Yun," So said, "you did very well taking care of everyone." "My mama always says to help people when they're scared," Yun replied. "These people were scared, so I helped them." On the bridge, Admiral Jean was receiving reports from the boarding teams. The rescue had gone perfectly. No shots fired, no injuries, all prisoners recovered safely. "Admiral," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving surrender messages from 17 other pirate vessels in this sector. They're asking for mercy. Tell them to prepare for inspection," Jean ordered. "Any ship found with captives will face full prosecution." Captain Vex and his crew were brought aboard the Terra's Fury in restraints. They walked past corridors filled with human personnel who watched them with cold expressions. These humans didn't look angry, they looked disappointed. Somehow that was worse. In the medical bay, Yun was being examined by Dr. Park. The examination showed she was healthy and had not been harmed. "You're very brave," Dr. Park told her. "I wasn't scared," Yun said. "I knew you would find me. Humans always protect their children. And I'm not the only child who needed help." Through the medical bay windows, Yun could see the other rescued prisoners receiving food and medical care. Human personnel were working to contact their families and arrange transportation home. As the Terra's Fury prepared to leave, Yun asked Commander So one last question. "What will happen to the aliens who took us?" "They will face human justice," So replied. "They will learn that taking children is the worst crime anyone can commit." Yun nodded seriously. "Good. Maybe they'll learn to protect children instead of hurting them." The human fleet began its journey home, carrying one small girl who had reminded the entire galaxy why humans were both loved and feared among the stars. 6 months after the rescue, the trial of Captain Vex and his crew became the most watched legal event in galactic history. Representatives from 47 different species came to observe human justice in action. The courtroom on Earth was filled with beings who had never seen a human trial before. They expected anger, violence, maybe even executions. Instead, they found something far more unsettling: cold, careful justice. Judge Yoon sat behind her bench, looking down at the 23 pirates who had been captured during the rescue mission. Captain Vex stood in the center, his 3 eyes darting nervously around the room. "Captain Vex," Judge Yoon began, "you and your crew are charged with kidnapping, slavery, and endangering the welfare of children. How do you plead?" "Guilty," Vex whispered. His lawyer had explained that fighting the charges would only make things worse. "The court finds you guilty on all charges. However, the human justice system believes in rehabilitation over revenge. You and your crew will serve 15 years protecting children of all species throughout the galaxy." The alien observers looked confused. Grak, the ambassador from the Zentari Empire, leaned forward. "Protecting children? That is the punishment?" "Yes," Judge Yoon replied. "You will work with the new Galactic Child Safety Force. You will learn why children must be protected. You will help rescue other children who are in danger. You will become the opposite of what you were." Captain Vex looked up in surprise. He had expected death or life in prison. You want us to save children?" "We want you to understand the value of what you tried to destroy," the judge answered. "If you learn well, you may even find meaning in your lives." On Colony World 7, Yun was back home with her parents, Jay and Hai. Their small house had become a center of activity as reporters, government officials, and scientists came to study what had happened during her captivity. "How do you feel about the pirates now?" asked a reporter from Galactic News Network. Yun was sitting at her kitchen table, drawing pictures of the different alien species she had met on the ship. "I feel sorry for them. They were scared and didn't know how to be good people." "Aren't you angry at them for taking you?" "Being angry doesn't help anyone," Yun said, looking up from her drawing. "But teaching them to be better might help other children." Her parents watched with pride as their 8-year-old daughter spoke with the wisdom of someone much older. "Tell us about the children's universal communication system you're working on," the reporter continued. Yun smiled brightly. "I'm making a way for all children to talk to each other, no matter what language they speak. When I was on the ship, the other children were scared because they couldn't understand what was happening. If all children can talk together, they can help each other." President Na was in her office on Earth, signing the Terran Child Protection Protocols into law. Admiral Jean stood beside her as she finished the last signature. "These protocols will change how we interact with the galaxy," President Na said. "From now on, any species that joins the Galactic Trade Alliance must agree to protect all children, not just their own." "What if they refuse?" Admiral Jean asked. "Then they don't get the benefits of human technology, human trade, or human protection," the president replied. "Most species will agree. They've seen what happens when human children are threatened." Across the galaxy, the changes were already beginning. On Kepler Station, the old slave markets had been shut down. The space station's new administrator, Commander Park, was converting the buildings into schools and hospitals. "No more buying and selling of people," Park announced to the station's residents. "This place will now be a center for education and healing." The criminal networks that had operated for centuries were gone. Some pirates had fled to the far edges of known space. Others had turned themselves in, hoping for the same rehabilitation program that Vex and his crew received. On Zephyr Prime, Ambassador Kix was meeting with his government's leaders. They were discussing the new reality of galactic politics. "The humans have shown their true nature," Kix reported. "They are not conquerors, but they are absolute in protecting the innocent. We must adapt our laws to match theirs." "What exactly are they demanding?" asked the Prime Minister. "That we treat all children as sacred. Human alien doesn't matter. Children are protected above all else. And if we refuse? Then we face what the pirates faced. The humans don't negotiate when it comes to children." Within a year, 42 species had signed the new child protection agreements. The Galactic Child Safety Force, led by Admiral Kai, had rescued over 3,000 children from various dangers. Captain Vex, now wearing the uniform of the Child Safety Force, stood on the bridge of his new ship. Instead of hunting victims, he was hunting predators. Instead of causing fear, he was bringing hope. "Captain," his old crew member Grix called out, "we found another slave ship. 12 children on board. Prepare for rescue operations," Vex ordered. "And remember, those children are someone's whole world." As his ship moved to intercept the slavers, Vex thought about little Yun. She had forgiven him, even written him a letter encouraging him to be better. Her simple kindness had changed his entire crew from criminals to protectors. On Earth, in the Hall of Galactic Records, a new entry was being written into the permanent archives. The Yun incident, as it came to be known, marked the beginning of the child protection era. One small girl's courage and one species' love for their young reshaped the moral foundation of galactic civilization. From this day forward, all children, regardless of species, would be considered sacred and protected by the combined forces of civilized space. The galaxy had learned a simple truth: humans would move stars to protect their children. And once they learned to love a child, any child, that protection extended to all children everywhere.